Now that I've shown some of the base R graphs that are built in, I want to start transitioning to Ggplot, which at first may seem a little bit more complicated, and it is, but that cost is widely compensated for, or wildly compensated for, by the flexibility and the power of this program. So Ggplot is sort of our main graphics program. It's part of the tidyverse, so by loading up the tidyverse, you will load Ggplot. And what I just want to do right now is recreate these simple graphs using Ggplot and show a bit of the customization we can do. So the first thing that we do is we type Ggplot. And then the first argument in Ggplot is always the data that we're using. So I type data because that's the data. And then here's what we have to tell Ggplot. So we're saying, okay, we're using the data. And then we have to say, well, what do we want the graph to look like? In Ggplot, we do that by specifying what's known as the aesthetic, right? What is the graph looking like? And we type AES for aesthetic. And with the aesthetic, we can tell it a bunch of things, like what we want on the x-axis, what we want on the y-axis, what we want the colors to be, and so forth. We're going to start simple. These are univariate graphs. It's just one variable. And we're going to say, I just want the life expectancy on the x-axis. So I'm going to do x equals life exp. Notice I don't have to do the $sign because I've already told it where the data is coming from. Now, if I just run this, not much is going to happen. I get this sort of blank graph because while I've told it I want life expectancy on the x-axis, I haven't told it what sort of object I want to display. I have to tell it, well, is this a histogram? Is it a dot plot? What kind of graph is it? And here's where I add the next layer to the plot. I do plus, new line, geom, which is like geometric object, histogram. And now if I run this, I get a histogram of life expectancy. So it's, at first, again, it seems a little more complex, right? Here's what we did before, and it looked like this. Here's what I did with Ggplot, and it looks like this. So you may be wondering, why bother? The more complex our graphs get, the more tedious they become to do with base R, and the easier they are to do with Ggplot. And we'll start to see that as our graphs get a bit more extensive. So I'm going to now do a box plot, Ggplot, data, aesthetic. This time I want the year on the y-axis, or sorry, the life expectancy. So I'm going to do y equals life expectancy plus geom box plot. And now I get the box plot in Ggplot. And again, these are easy to customize, the themes, the look, the titles, the axis. Let's just do that really quickly. I am going to, let's go to the histogram. I can add on another layer, plus, this is a good function, it's called labs for labels. And I can do title equals, quotes, histogram of life expectancy in Gapminder. Actually, let's get rid of that. We don't need the Gapminder. Comma, X could be life expectancy in years. Y could be frequency, right? How often these things are showing up in our data set. And then I think it's note. Is that the right one? So now I've added all these labels to the graph. Let me rerun this. Did I do it right? Okay, so we see the histogram of life expectancy is our title. We see the frequency on the y-axis. We see life expectancy on the x-axis. I think my thing for note is wrong. Maybe it's subtitle. There we go. So now I get the source down there. And if I wanted to change the look of the graph, let's say I want it to look a little more clean, I can change the theme to be black and white. And now, okay, I'm getting like a little bit clearer vision of it. Let's say I wanted to change the color of the histogram. Inside the histogram, I could do color equals black, fill equals blue. Okay, and now I'm getting a graph that's more customized exactly to what I want it. And this is all possible to do with the hist command, but it's a lot more work. So even by investing a little bit in Ggplot up front, we can customize our graphs much more easily. So those are some simple univariates. We'll talk about some bivariate plots in the next one.